In 2013, Edward Snowden revealed that America's National Security Agency was listening in on, well, everybody. Everyone was shocked, deeply shocked.
This weekend, portions of a highly classified Pentagon document came to light for all the world to see, brought cries of outrage from Washington.
It was 1971. America was in the midst of a war in Vietnam. The Pentagon Papers revealed that presidents from 4 administrations, that generals and the intelligence services had all been lying about the Vietnam War. Everyone was deeply shocked.
This trial will inform the American public in ways that it's never heard before of how we've been governed in the past quarter century and what censorship and deception do to a democracy.
More stories about the CIA and the FBI spilled out of Watergate. 3 separate investigations were launched. They discovered FBI agents in the post office steaming open letters without warrants, infiltrating civil rights and anti-war groups, disrupting them using blackmail.
The women's movement became the target of political surveillance. The United States Army had used more than 1,000 personnel to engage in domestic spying in the United States.
The CIA was also very active, operating inside the country, which was not permitted, going around the world conspiring to assassinate foreign leaders, and even enlisting the mafia to kill Fidel Castro, possibly with an exploding cigar. The NSA was running Operation Shamrock, listening in on every electronic communication into and out of the United States without warrants, and had been doing so for 30 years.
Many Americans who were not even suspected of crime were not only spied upon, but they were harassed, they were discredited, and at times endangered.
In the case of Shamrock, you know, every day they'd get a whole computer disk, carry that down physically down to the NSA, and they would like listen to it and check out all the calls.
Everyone was shocked, deeply shocked. The NSA said they'd shut Shamrock down, but they hadn't, not really. In 1988, Duncan Campbell revealed that the NSA listening posts had risen into the sky. They were now satellite-based, and they had a new name, Echelon. Before anyone could get too shocked, 9/11 happened, and a pumped-up president stepped forward to tell America,
I vow to do everything in my power to prevent another attack on our nation.
The Bush administration seized the opportunity to reject all restraints and let slip the dogs of snooping. The head of the pack himself promised that
Everything that NSA does is lawful and very carefully done.
for carefully, read secretly, no courts, no warrants, nothing to slow down the action, everything's lawful if no one knows about it. Echelon was giving a new lease of life and a new name, Solar Wind.
In the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration decided it didn't need those court orders, that simply unilaterally it could engage in whatever electronic surveillance it wanted to, so long as the supposed aim of the electronic surveillance was the prevention of terrorism.
People were shocked, deeply shocked.
So help me God.
In 2007, Bush's Attorney General Alberto Gonzales claimed the program had been discontinued. People might not have really believed him, but it didn't seem to matter, because the next year, America elected a new president with a completely different attitude to his predecessor.
He called for transparency in government. He deplored the war in Iraq. He deplored Bush's use of tactics after 2001. He deplored the war on terror, the way it was being fought. It sounded like we're going to have a change, a real change.
This administration also puts forward a false choice between the liberties we cherish and the security we provide.
Under scrutiny, the new president's new ideals were backed by a new Attorney General's reassurance that change really had come to America.
You are the Attorney General. Is there any doubt in your mind that the warrantless wiretapping program was illegal?
the concerns that I expressed then have really been remedied.
In fact, nothing had been remedied, nothing had changed, except Obama, whose policies had become Bush's.
If anything, as we show in our chapter on Obama and Bush, the war on terror, we called it, the age of terror, because it is terror, he expanded the powers. He expanded the presidential powers.
In 2012, William Binney, formerly the technical leader for intelligence in the NSA, revealed that the agency had indeed been spying on Americans and that all the major telecommunication companies were cooperating with them. There is something very odd here. The essence of what would be revealed in 2013 was already on the record, in public. Yet it passed without much fuss. But with Snowden, we were all shocked.
Legal action should be taken against him.
All over again.
I'm shocked by it. I mean, I've suspected it for a long time, but to actually see it in print and in documents, that every phone call every one of us makes has its metadata taken by the United States government and the NSA, shocking to me.
Shocked, yes. But how much do Americans care?
The saddest part to me is there's not more outrage. I mean, here we have a massive surveillance program on every one of us living in America and many people overseas. And we have senators and congresspeople and others trying to justify this program.
This time the target of surveillance is terrorists.
What they're saying they're using it for sounds reasonable in the sense that they say they're looking for foreign targets.
That's not always been the case.
The targets of the spying tended to be organizations that dissented from public policy in various ways, so that civil rights organizations were the targets of spying.
They said it was about communism.
Who was responsible for protecting communist infiltration and protecting communists?
It was not communism. When we studied untold history, we went deeper than that. It was really fear of reform. Teachers, labor alliances, land reformers, these became our enemies.
Will the targets of all this surveillance always be the bad guys? Or will mission creep turn it against the good guys?
They now have the capability, one day, maybe not now, but one day, you could get a different administration. We've had administrations that have abused the power and taken, now they'll have all the data they want. And what if they decide to profile radically on a certain group of people or a certain neighborhood of people? They will have the ability to do it.
What does this all mean? That there is a secret empire of surveillance and spying that constantly regenerates itself? Is this latest version of the scandal different from all the others? Fundamentally, we need to ask if the cult of secrecy actually makes the world safer or more dangerous, and how is it all financed and run? The amount of money that the United States spends on intelligence is usually considered a secret. The amounts are hidden in strange places under obscure names, as if the knowledge of whether it's 80 billion or $100 billion will make the next underwear bomber think, now's my chance. What the Americans call the intelligence community is a vast and eclectic assortment of organizations. There have always been fortunes to be made in military and intelligence contracting.
Then there was the 9/11 attacks in 2001, and budgets, intelligence budgets went through the roof basically for 4 or 5 years. These agencies, instead of building up a government cadre of intelligence analysts and operatives, went out and hired a lot of contractors.
After 9/11, Congress just poured the money out, wrote basically blank checks to the intelligence world in the hopes that that didn't happen again, another 9/11. But they didn't want to grow government. So they ended up spending a lot of that money on contractors.
They may not have wanted to grow the government, but they grew an industry that lives off the government, a total of $1 trillion since 9/11. They've built a constituency who will fight to keep the business going and to get more business.
They lobby and they probably give campaign contributions, all kinds of things going on. So you have that, which in terms of oversight means that Congress isn't going to be doing the strongest oversight.
Money talks. Money makes people think and act in different, weird ways.
Many of your favorite companies are part of the action. Many you might not have heard of. Edward Snowden chose a particular contractor to work for in order to gather the material that he wanted to reveal. It was an excellent choice. Booz Allen Hamilton is the world's leading intelligence contractor.
The Booz Allen Cloud Analytics Reference Architecture represents a way for organizations to harness big data.
My oh my, what a jolly and wonderful place it must be to work. Big thoughts about big issues, all based on big ideas, generating big returns. It was started in 1914 as a business consulting company. In 1942, it began to concentrate on government contracts. The big secret, the key secret to success in the world of spies for hire, is the revolving door. Take, for example, Miles Copeland, college dropout, jazz musician, and one of the founders of the CIA. He was part of Operation Ajax, which overthrew the democratically elected government in Iran to save Iranian oil for British Petroleum. Copeland then joined Booz Allen. 2 years later, he went back to the CIA. In those combined positions, according to his memoirs, he helped set up Egypt's secret police, put a pro-American colonel at the head of the Syrian government, and even claims he helped bring the Ba'ath Party to power in Iraq. It's the same today. Mike McConnell was director of the NSA from 1992 to 1996, then went to Booz Allen.
They've got to understand the benefit, and they can trust the other party. It's that trust factor that's required to get the information shared.
Then back to government as Director of National Intelligence, and now he's back at Booz Allen.
One of my favorite sources called it a self-licking ice cream cone. It's a closed system in which you need a clearance to get the information about what's going to be, available to purchase and to give to the government. People who used to be in Congress work for these security companies. They all know each other.
Booz Allen was a privately held company owned by senior management, much like a law firm, until 2008, when it was bought by the Carlyle Group, another nexus point of governments and money.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us. We want to take a moment to update you on Carlyle and what we're up to.
The part of the company that did corporate contracting was spun off to concentrate on government deals. The Carlyle Group's investment of $910 million is estimated to be worth $3 billion now. It's easy to make money when you already own the world. Today, Booz Allen Hamilton has revenues of nearly $6 billion. They have 25,000 employees.
They have 10,000 people with top secret clearance on their payroll.
It's a great business to be in.
When someone like McConnell, now working for the private sector, goes on the record in the op-ed section of the Washington Post saying that there is a cyber war going on and there have been 5 attacks, but they're classified, I cannot discuss them, but give us another $1 billion to fight them, that's not a claim anyone can assess.
Well, businesses are there to make money in this country and everywhere in the world, so they're going to expand forever and ever, and they're going to come up with new techniques to surveil me.
America's leading export is its business models and brands, like Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Levi's, and Apple. And today, expect private contractors to bring universal surveillance to a government near you. The primary mission of the intelligence services is to gain accurate knowledge of the world. Who's a friend, who's an enemy, who wants peace, and who wants war, and how good are they likely to be at it. The American intelligence services have had a really bad time since 2001. They missed 9/11. They colluded in the myth that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and was somehow connected to Al-Qaeda. It took them over 10 years to get Osama bin Laden. They completely misjudged 2 wars and what was required to occupy and reorganize 2 countries. Was this just a rough patch? Or are the intelligence services always that bungling and maladroit? They thought the Russians would take 4 years longer to get the atom bomb than they did. They didn't think North Korea would invade South Korea and were certain the Chinese wouldn't back them up. They thought they could overthrow Castro. They missed Lon Nol's coup in Cambodia, the colonel's coup in Greece, the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, and the 1973 October War. They predicted the Soviets would not invade Afghanistan, missed their decision to pull out, and never considered what would follow, the rise of the Taliban. They didn't anticipate the fall of the Shah, the rise of the Ayatollahs, and the return of religion as a political force. They missed the fall of the Soviet Union. In short, America would have done better going to Zora, the gypsy fortune teller, tossing the I Ching, or throwing darts at possible futures. The second part of the intelligence trade is the stuff from which major motion pictures and hit TV series are made. Action.
Everyone in America now knows every single detail about one night raid, the raid that killed bin Laden.
JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, was established in 1980.
The idea of JSOC was that it was going to be an elite secret all-star team, taking what at the time was known as SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, the 75th Army Rangers, and then the most elite pilots in the U.S. military, called the Night Stalkers. After 9/11, Dick Cheney, and Donald Rumsfeld viewed JSOC not just as a tool that could be used to hunt targets around the world, but as the policy itself. The kill capture program became the policy with the emphasis on kill. And for the 8 years of the Bush administration, it was like Murder, Inc.
Throughout the Cold War, American agents roamed the world. There were some spectacular failures, but there were many successes as they conspired, supported coups, overthrew governments, and replaced them with regimes they liked better.
They started to intervene in third world countries. Guatemala, Iran, Indonesia, Cuba, all the countries that were reforming themselves. The concept was they did not want reform. They wanted the American-style system of capitalism, where we owned the resources. American corporations could own those countries or work them to exploit them.
It's here we have to introduce the concept of blowback.
We got rid of a progressive leftist regime which was teaching women how to read and write and think, and it was doing okay under Soviet communism, actually. And we put in these fundamentalist nutcases. We wanted them to destroy communism. So we got, what's his name, Osama bin Laden was on our payroll for a while. It's a blowback situation, totally, because of our CIA involvement in the Middle East, because of our behavior in Afghanistan. We wanted the fundamentalists.
Democracy in Iran came to a dead stop in 1953, replaced by autocracy and then by a theocracy. The presidents who followed Diem in Vietnam were even more corrupt and inept than he'd been. Cambodia was taken over by the Khmer Rouge. Mobutu came to power in the Congo, a corrupt, murderous dictator. In Guatemala, there was 40 years of military rulers and death squads. The anti-communist purge in Indonesia killed between 500,000 and 1 million civilians. Chile was taken over by Pinochet, who put 25,000 people in prison for political offenses and killed at least 3,000.
These drone attacks in all these countries have have increased the number of terrorists. Essentially there was after 2001, there was some 50 people on the terror lists, 50 people. Now it's thousands, because whenever you militarize a situation, you start killing people.
I think it is time in this country to quit making national heroes out of those who steal secrets and publish them in the newspapers.
The real problem here, to me, as someone who's worked in the intelligence world for decades, is that we've made treason cool. Betraying your country is kind of a fashion statement. We need to get very, very serious about treason. And oh, by the way, for treason, as in the case of Bradley Manning or Edward Snowden, you bring back the death penalty.
Considering how often and in how many ways the intelligence services have screwed up and how much they cost, you would think that Americans would be furious with their spies and delighted with their whistleblowers. So when the truth arouses that much rage, it suggests a deep emotional disturbance. We don't expect people like Richard Nixon and Colonel Peters to pursue the psychiatric care that might help them, so we consulted one on their behalf.
We always go after the messenger.
Because then we don't have to think about actually the message he's conveying to us. We don't have to pay attention to what that message is. We don't have to be upset about it. We don't have to start second guessing what our democracy is about, what our country is about. But in a democracy then, people who live in fear are going to curtail their behavior, and in the long run, they're not going to be able to be open about their thoughts, about their feelings. They're not going to be able to make informed judgments. They're going to end up wanting to believe whatever the people in power say they should believe.
Secrecy in the name of national security is an invitation to lie, and that's an invitation that's frequently accepted. People lie for profit, for promotion, to cover up their screw-ups, for their political agendas. Agents lie to their handlers, handlers lie to bureau chiefs lie to cabinet officers who lie to the president lies to us. The problem is that secrets are a trump card because they can't be challenged.
Ultimately, the errors of the American intelligence services are not just bad luck, they are the necessary result of a culture of secrecy. Secrecy in government is counterproductive and damaging to that democratic process, and in the long run, to the very purpose of national security. Open debate can counter the secrecy without compromising security, whilst offering fewer places for the inept and the incompetent to hide. So when the ideologues and the self-interested declare, you'll just have to trust us because we know things you don't, trust is something they'll first have to earn.